It is Lorena. I want to do a video for you on 5 things I check on when I'm working on my clients' quilts. 5 things. And I'm getting obsessive about checking these things because sometimes when I don't check those things, it makes my day miserable. So let's talk about those 5 things, okay? I got her going. She is beautiful. It's a texting quilt. I'm using a lighter variegated thread so you can see the quilting, but it's not dominating because there's a lot of white on this quilt. Beautiful. Item number 1 that I check is tension. 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 The reason I check the tension on every single quilt I start is because every single thread that you put on the long arm is somewhat different. Does that make sense? So I use my Tova tension. I use also the Magic Bobbin Genie. So I'm gonna wind me some bobbins. I check every single time I put a new quilt the thread, even if it's the same brand. Let's say like King Tut. I love King Tut thread from Superior Threads. Even if it's a gray or a blue or orange or whatever color, I always check the tension. Now once I started quilting, I'm less likely to recheck the tension on each individual bobbin because I already got my sweet spot. But if something goes on and the tension doesn't look right, I of course will go and check it again. So I'm constantly looking at the thread line on the back of the quilt and the top because I want to make sure that the tension is great, because you don't want to be unstitching, okay? Unstitching sucks. She looks beautiful on the table. Release and roll. I shouldn't do rolling while I have that folded. Should I? It's not. It's gonna make a lump. And roll. Let me move you so you can see better. Another thing that I'm on top of myself when I am working on a client's quilt is the quilt flat, number 1. And if it is, I start checking if there's any weird seams or if there's any open seams. I need to stabilize this. It's very important to make sure that you're not quilting on an open seam, because that long arm, it'll catch it. It's like, you know, it'll catch it, pull that fabric, and then tear the seam open bigger, or even tear your client's quilt. I'm going to trim them out on my program. I'm going to baste them because you could literally tear this client's fabric. So I'm basting really close to the edge of these little folds. But on top of it, you still need to watch it when the quilting goes over these areas. But it's just little tiny base all the way around. I'm going to also do this side right here. So one of the things I do is I iron sometimes, or I'll just kind of feel around the quilt, move it in one direction, move it in another direction. I'm also seeing if I have the batting nice and flat, but that kind of can reveal if there's any open seams. Now, item number 3 that I check, it's kind of part of the back fabric. I check that there's no folds on the batting. It's easier to feel on the quilt top if there's a fold on the batting, but I also am starting to do this, especially if the quilt has a lot of white fabric and lighter fabric, is make sure that there is no dark thread on the batting. Yeah. And in the same side of batting, make sure that I put the batting on right when I'm working on my client's quilt. And you could feel sometimes the pleats on the bar if you're having them. But I recommend pulling the quilt top off of the batting. And I do this every time I roll now. And then go back and make sure that there's no weird threads somewhere. And then you're having to pick threads out. So, yeah. I make sure that my back fabric has no folds or pleats. I've had a couple videos where I had a fold when I was quilting a quilt, and then it took me a quilt that could have taken me only 3 hours, and it had taken me another 2 hours because I was unstitching the row and also to having to requilt it. Really pull your back fabric back when you're getting it ready. And you can see that there's no fold through the mirror. But then, if you look deep in there, do you see that? Those are little tiny pleats as it got rolled. I've done videos on this mirror. This is just a door mirror. And that I put little blocks on. So what do I do when I have the machine going and I feel like I'm okay to do something else? I go hunting for ladybugs. I don't know if this house is like a ladybug. Look, it's crazy. I got 3 ladybugs, so when the quilting is quilting, I go hunt ladybugs. Now there's 5. Another thing that I check is my design alignment. Sometimes you'll have like row 1 and it's beautiful. I want to make sure that row 2 snugs up beautifully on row 1. And the way you can manage that is kind of finding anchor points on the quilt and making sure that when you roll the quilt and you put the new design, that it's not coming off on the right and the left border of the quilt. And also too, that it's like lining up really nice and snug to the next design. So it looks like it was all quilted all together and you don't have some weird random row of void. I've had that happen. It's not a good thing. And so just be mindful on how you align. And I'm very meticulous. I'm trying to make sure that my alignment is perfectly aligned to the row before, so that when the client sees the quilt, she can't even recognize that there were rows. Let's see, I'm checking placement. If you're wondering what is she doing right now? Girl is checking placement, and then it's not bad, huh? And then placement here. And then we're doing the last row. Unported. Looks a lot better. I need to fix the bottom now. No, I still need to fix that right there. So for leaders, at least this one. Then we're gonna unroll her. Huh. Unroll her so you can see her and all of her beauty. Oh, look at her. Let's see. That's a pretty quilt. I'm so glad I'm done. I'm so tired. I'll do it the other day. You see my room? I need to clean up. I really appreciate you, and I love you in the Lord, and I'll see you on the next one, okay? Yes. See you. Oh, and thank you for all the suggestions on the new channel's name. You guys are awesome. Thank you.